Hello, everyone! Welcome to another episode of the Big Brother Hangout. And as you can see, I'm just me today, so it's not really much of a hangout. So I guess you guys are who I'm going to hang out with today. But yeah, let's get back into Big Brother Canada. We're going to have a very Big Brother Canada heavy episode today because I know sometimes I go a little bit off script with it. And yeah, I was a little bit nervous, to be honest, about how the rest of the season was going to go because two of my favorite house guests were Victoria and Ro, and so to see them go back to back in the double was quite heartbreaking for me. But luckily for me, I think the season's still going strong. I think we had a lot of interesting gameplay this past few days. We've had some emotional moments. We've had some I don't know what else, but whatever. We're gonna dive right in. So I guess we started the week with Jed winning HOH, so that's exciting for him, right? And I don't know if you guys saw, but it was one of those ball competitions, so you can kind of compete against each other, but also you're trying to compete with yourself. And as we saw in that, Tara was not quite happy. Tara had a bit of a meltdown during that competition. I think she saw clearly she was at the bottom. People were not only working on giving themselves points, but taking away points from her. And I think at one point she just gave up because she was like, why am I going to waste my energy when there's no way I can win this competition? And honestly, I kind of respected it. And in that moment, she kind of told Kiefer exactly what was going down. She told Kiefer how the trio top role was in power and how if they don't take them, whatever, yada, yada, yada. And I don't know. I don't think Kiefer really listened to her. But Tara was a little bit of a, what is it called? She kind of predicted how this week was going to go just from the first HOH when Jed was in power. And I think that was pretty admirable. And I haven't always been the biggest Tara stan in the world, but honestly, she's kind of growing on me. I think she's not afraid to speak her mind, and I think she can be a lot at times. And at times, I judge her self-awareness in the game, which is always one of my pet peeves in people in Big Brother if they're not self-aware. But Tara is kind of growing on me. And I liked her little outburst at the HOH competition, and I respected it, honestly. And so with that, Jed won, and it's not really a surprise. Tina and Tara go on the block. They're kind of one of the last strong duos there. And for the throuple, at this point, I guess they're kind of the two that would strongly be, without a question, put them on the block and go against them. Because this throuple has not touched the block. We are on day, 45, and the fact that none of them have touched the block is just astounding to me because I know that a lot of their allies have been the ones winning HOHs, especially Kiefer. Kiefer, in my eyes, is the reason why the throuple is so strong in this game, and as we'll know soon, that's kind of too bad for him. But yeah, so Tina and Tara, no surprise, end up going up. But they did, originally, the throuple did have an original backdoor plan of putting Brayden up, which is kind of interesting to me because Brayden, I thought, had a good relationship with Beth and whatever. And Brayden, I had some doubts about how Brayden was going to do for the end game just because, he hasn't won any competitions and you kind of wonder, where's Brayden's game at? But I was really impressed with Brayden's social game. He spent so much effort not letting the trio really get away from him. Anytime the trio left the room, 5 minutes later, little Brayden walks in and goes, hey guys, what are you guys talking about? And so because of that, I feel like the trio really didn't get to strategize that much. And he also built really strong relations. And now Brayden has kind of become the fourth member of the throuple. And I think that was actually pretty good for his game, especially right now when this would have been such an easy week for him to go because as we all know what happens is Tara wins the veto. And that was pretty big for her. I think that at this point in the game, especially just listening to the cast members talk, I think that they really do value competition wins more than maybe some past seasons and other seasons I've seen because personally, I tend to value a social game more than a competition-based game. I do think it's sometimes a little bit unfair if you never win a competition just because everyone should have blood on their hands. It's not really fair if I'm the HOH and I'm carrying the game and you don't have any enemies in the house, but that's only because you've never been forced to make enemies. And sometimes I don't think that's very fair. So I do think that's important to win competitions in the game and make these choices. And so Tara, when it mattered, she did save herself, and that's impressive. But I don't know. Originally, like I said, Brayden was going to be the backdoor plan. But as they kind of thought about it, little seeds started getting planted about Kiefer. And the craziest thing is I think Kiefer was someone that kind of was planting his own seeds, because Kiefer is someone that goes around the house and is like, I'm playing the best game, and he thinks he deserves to win. And I don't know if you guys watch a lot of Big Brother like I do, but you don't let people know that you deserve to win. You wait until you're in that final 2 seat before you start telling people that, because everyone wants to win. There's a lot of money on the line. And so why would you go around telling people that you're the strongest person in the house and you're going to win when we're at final, what are we at? Final 6? We're at final 6 and there's so much game going and you're telling everyone that you're the strongest person in the house? Like, I know that you're in a strong spot, but still, you shouldn't be doing that, because there comes a point in the game at like final 4, final 5 where it's so easy just to win out. And so for you to be doing that, like, it just wasn't very smart. And so like that kind of started from Kiefer, and then Tara and Jed had a little conversation, and Beth, I know, was having a lot of conversations just talking about how Kiefer is such a threat in the game. And Kiefer, who has done so much for the throuple, and all of the throuples people who are coming hard from, Ro was coming hard for them, Kyle would have come for them, Victoria at times was coming for them, but then, you know, that never really happened. All these times that people are coming from the throuple, the reason why the throuple was stayed safe and hasn't touched the block is because of Kiefer. And so now Kiefer, when he had the perfect opportunity to turn, he did it. And now because he's established himself as like the strongest house guest, now unfortunately Kiefer has become the backdoor plan. And I don't know if you guys watched it yet, but it was quite an emotional thing, because Kiefer initially was going around kind of being like, oh, you know, it's going to be Brayden. Have they talked to Brayden yet? Are they going to talk to Brayden? And then Tina at one point, I know that I've talked about Tina before, because Tina has a problem where I feel like sometimes she doesn't put herself out there enough to defend her allies. I know it happened with LaToya, and it happened with, mainly LaToya is the one I'm thinking of. And because of that, I don't think she's had as strong of a presence among the cast because of that, even though no one could say that Tina's not, well, I guess people do say it, but I think Tina is playing the game and playing the game extremely well. But the problem is if the cast doesn't know you're playing the game well, all of your work is kind of taken for granted. And that's kind of what's been happening for Tina. And now Kiefer, who is Tina's number 2 in the house after Tara, part of the 90s or whatever it's called, you know, the old people alliance, basically. Now, when finally someone who is in danger, she once again, I don't think, put enough effort out to save him. She kind of had a talk with Jed, and it was kind of like, oh, you know, I think Kiefer is always going to be loyal to the Sunsetters. But besides that, I don't think Tina did enough once again. And because of that, Kiefer did get put on the block. And it was so sad when they had the conversation. I think people have different opinions of Kiefer, but just like how devastated he was, because he's so loyal. And I think also coming where he comes from, you know, coming from a small town, and I think that he's really used to kind of that strong bond and that familia relationship. And I think that he had that with Jed, Ty, and Beth. And also Kiefer undoubtedly would have taken Jed to the end. He would have taken Jed to the end. I think that that's without a question, you know, because I think he'd always talked about how in Kiefer's eyes, it's kind of the most important thing is to kind of to be the best, you have to beat the best. And I think Kiefer also thought he could beat everyone. He has a bit of an ego, as we'll probably continually talk about. But you know, that kind of mindset, to be the best, you have to beat the best. And I think in his eyes, Jed was the best, because Jed had won a decent amount of competitions. And I think for a normal Big Brother player, to be the best, you have to win the money. And the easiest way to win the money is to go against the worst. And that's kind of what mindset would be if I was in the house. I don't really believe in needing to be the best. Who do you think will be the final 3 left? Do you think the whole throuple will live on? Well, Leroy Sinclair, 69. I will tell you that, will the whole throuple live on? There's a very good chance, because there's 6 people left, and the throuple is 3 of them. So they have a 50% chance, or I guess a little less than 50% next comp, because Jed's not played. But they have basically a majority in the House, and they have a good chance of winning out. They really do. And also, they're going against Tina, who has not proven to have competition prowess. They're going against Tara, who recently won a competition, but before that had not really proven herself. And Brayden, who also has never won a competition. And so just going off of that, there's a very good chance that the throuple will make it to the final three. And that will be an exciting scenario to see what happens. And I hope they don't make it to the final three, because I just would like there to be a little bit of conflict. But there's a very good chance they do. I don't know, because I think that's what everyone else wants, though, is the easier path. And also, who's going against the throuple right now? Tina and Tara are, but I don't think Brayden is. Brayden's not going against the throuple. Brayden, at this point, has said, at least from what I've seen, that he would not nominate Jed or Ty, and I kind of think that's true. I kind of think if Brayden wins, he nominates the girls, which would be Tina and Tara, not Beth. I don't think so, at least. And so right now, the throuple is somehow very set up. I think that they've played an incredible social game. And just from that, they just don't really have people going against them, which is crazy. For 3 people in such a strong alliance to not have people going against them is just crazy to me. And so he said, who will the third wheel be? Well, that is a little bit complicated, because Jed and Beth right now are apparently in love. But Beth, I don't think, can beat Jed, because as we'll talk about later, though, I think that right now Jed is setting himself up to be the front runner of the season. Kiefer's even been making comments now, like if he does go to the jury house, the person that he's going to vote for is whoever in the throuple has won the most competitions. And right now, Jed is winning in that sense. So the question is, would Beth ever cut Jed to take Ty and have a better chance of winning? I don't think she would. Would Jed cut Beth to take Ty? I don't think he would, because honestly, I think Jed could beat both of them. And so why not take someone you're in love with? And Ty, I think Ty would take, I don't know who Ty would take. Ty should take Beth, and I think Ty would take Beth. So I guess Ty's on the bottom of the 3, just statistically. But it really is going to be such an up in the air kind of thing. And there's a lot of, ways this can go forward. Like Brayden right now. Brayden apparently is with the throuple right now, but Tina and Tara need to get their shit together, I think. And they need to work with Brayden and make sure and try to get Brayden under their wing, because in order for them to have a shot at making it, they can't just get steamrolled. They need to have Brayden on their side. And I just don't know if they're putting in quite as much effort as the throuple's putting in, which honestly, I don't even know if the throuple's putting effort in. I think Brayden is just putting in effort with them. But I really, really hope that Brayden will go against the throuple and join it with Tina and Tara, because I always love a split house, and that's the easiest way to split it up right now. But that's kind of where we're at. Where are we at? Okay, Kiefer left. Well, not left, sorry. He hasn't left yet. There's also some other drama with that later. But Kiefer's told that he's getting backdoored. And when he leaves the room, the throuple just starts bawling. They are just so heartbroken, because you could say a lot about this cast. There's a lot of big personalities, but I really think that everyone on this cast is genuinely such nice people. They're all really good people. The fact that I think Ty and Jed genuinely felt bad that they're doing this to Kiefer, because Kiefer has been nothing but loyal. They like Kiefer. Kiefer's very likable, but then in the back of your head, you always have to think this is a game. And in a game, you have to do the best thing for your game to win. And unfortunately, for Jed thinks that's Kiefer leaving. And that's another interesting thing, is Kiefer leaving best for everyone in the throuple? Because I think it was the best thing for Jed. And I think it is the best thing for Beth, because Beth right now, I think, could work with the girls, and she has a good relationship with Brayden. So I think it's really good for Beth for Brayden to stay and Kiefer to go. But for Ty, I don't know about that, because I think Ty needed to have Kiefer in the house to potentially take a shot at the other, or at least not take a shot, but just to have kind of a bigger target in the house and someone to go after. Because what I'm worried might happen is that if Tina and Tara get power and they put up, let's say, Ty and Jed, who goes home? Because Beth is going to vote to save Jed. And Brayden, I think, might vote to save Jed. And so I think Ty is put in a really precarious position where with Kiefer gone, Kiefer, who was so loyal to Ty and so loyal to the throuple, I think that it wasn't good for Ty. But I don't think Ty really had a say. And I think that's what we're starting to realize is that Jed and Beth are starting to kind of steer the direction of the throuple, and Ty is just kind of being left behind. And I think that's really interesting because, as people know, like, I love Ty. Like, Ty was my winner pick. Ty was who I wanted to win this thing. But right now with Jed and Beth, I just think that Ty's resume is slowly deteriorating while Jed's is going up. And it's just kind of going to be an interesting scenario, see how the end game plays out if they get that far, because Ty is so likable. So likable. So it just puts people in a weird position. Like, do you go off of the game or do you go off who you like more? And that's where I think it gets complicated. So let's just keep moving on. So the throuple's sad about Kiefer going. But Beth is interesting because Beth has a good relationship with Brayden, but also Beth always spouts off these comments about how she hates floaters and things, and she thinks Brayden's like the ultimate floater, and so she wants Brayden gone next. And so Beth is kind of, she's always kind of, even though like Brayden I think is really good for Beth's game, but right now Beth wants Brayden out next. I thought that was interesting information. Oh, and now we're at the point where Tara, of course, uses the veto on herself, and then Kiefer unfortunately goes up, which is kind of no surprise. As they talked about it, they told Kiefer about it. I think once you tell someone they're going up, you kind of have to put them up, because why else? Like, why? You already ruined the enemy. If Kiefer somehow stays and wins HOH, he's putting them up now. You've created that enemy, so why would you then put up Brayden and cause another enemy in the house? It's just bad game. So now they told them they have to put him up. And Kiefer at this point is just like, he's just sulking. He's just kind of moping around. There was a little bit of drama where Ty, I think, asked if Kiefer was making dinner, and Brayden thought that was rude, kind of be like, wow, like you put someone up and then expect them to make you dinner. When really Ty was just kind of like, no, I just need to know if I'm supposed to cook my own food or not. Boy's got to eat. He's a growing boy. But I think there was even a conversation with Kiefer and I think Tina, where Kiefer was once again kind of talking about quitting. I don't know if he was talking about quitting in the sense of like, I'm going to quit, but he was talking about quitting in a sense of like, if I were to quit, if I would go home or to the jury house. And Tina's like, I think you go home, which I think also too. I think if you quit, you don't deserve a vote. You don't get a vote. So I don't know. He's kind of making comments like that because we know that Kiefer has a family, and I'm sure he was feeling a little homesick because this game I feel like feels like it's wrapping up, but in reality, we still have like almost 25 days left in the house, and that's pretty wild to me. That's a lot of days. That's a whole month. We got a whole extra month of gameplay left in the Big Brother house, which is just wild to me. They've been already playing for 45 days, and 25 of 45, what is that, 70? This is only 10 days off of being halfway. Only 10 days over halfway in the Big Brother house, which is just wild to me. Like, that is so much gameplay left, even though they're at final 6. It's just bonkers. But yeah, so once again, Kiefer has been sad. He was talking to Tina also about all the mistakes he's made, about how he regrets during the double not putting up the throuple because, when he did, he got out Roe, which I agree. I think that was a mistake. I think also one of his big mistakes is with Roe. He just had such tunnel vision. He constantly was just like, he's still obsessed with Roe. Roe is out of the house, and Kiefer still talks about Roe constantly, which is just so wild to me. But he got Roe out, which is good for the throuple because I was somewhat against them. But I can't remember. I think I saw a tweet about this. I can't remember who said it, but it might have been Taryn, where they said that the problem with Kiefer's game is he works so hard to get all of the throuple's enemies out that eventually they're forced to turn on each other. Because if Roe was still in the game, Kiefer would not be going home this week. If Roe was still in the game, there's people in front of Kiefer on the pecking order. And I think Kiefer, I think his mistake too is expecting people to think like him, because he is so loyal, and I think that he thought that everyone else was going to be just as loyal back. And the fact is people aren't loyal in Big Brother. you know, and I think that that was just one of his biggest downfalls. Okay, so what happened next? Oh, this was also kind of a big drama piece, was that Kiefer told the throuple that he knew Victoria was the invisible HOH, like she told him, which is a fact, and that he stops Victoria from putting them up. I think he was trying to say that as a way to be like, I've always protected you, like even if you didn't know it, I was always protecting you. But the fact is the throuple instead was like, well, why didn't you tell us? Like if you knew that Victoria was the invisible HOH so early, like why did you not tell us? Like if anything, I think that just instilled more distrust in their relationship, which wasn't great. But also I don't think it mattered at that point. Yeah, and I think the last big point I wanted to talk about was Kiefer did a bit of a tell-all with Brayden. So Brayden now, you know, in Big Brother, information is power, and Brayden now is in the complete know. He knows all about the Sunsetters. He knows all about the alliances Kiefer's, and anything Kiefer knows, Brayden knows now. And I think that sets up Brayden really well, just to kind of moving forward, if Brayden is in those final 2 chairs, using that information to tell the jury what, you know, that you were able to get that information and use it to fight the other side, I think is really valuable. Because Brayden does have a shot at winning this. I don't think they all have a shot at winning, but all of them have good cases right now, at least, and have a chance. And that's, I think, what I wanted to dive a bit into. So I will open up my PowerPoint. Where am I? Here I am. Okay. Okay, here we go. So, as always, I have my nifty PowerPoint. So the first thing I want to talk about, oh, let's make this a little bigger. Ooh, wrong thing. Sorry. I think that's big enough now, maybe. Can we make it a little bigger? That's a little better. Okay. Let's see if we can, whatever. Okay. So the first thing I wanted to show was just kind of the alliances currently. So as always, we have the Sunsetters and Tina. Because Tina right now, is Tina a Sunsetter? I'm not really sure. She's going against them. They still kind of say she's a part of it, even though I think that everyone on both sides know that Tina's really not a Sunsetter right now. Tina right now will, I think, go against the Final 4. Can we call them a Final 4? And so Tina's not really part of it. If anything, over here, the throuple, and they say that this is also 89 Razor Skate 20 posted this alliance deal thing. They have Brayden. They say it's a fake Final 4, but I don't really know how fake it is now. I think Brayden has done a really good job at integrating himself with the throuple, and I think that they really do trust Brayden and think that of the people left, Brayden is least likely to target them, which I think is accurate. I think that Brayden has done a really good job with his social game, and I think he has integrated himself, and so I think that there's actually a lot of truth to that. And then who do we have next? Next we have the pre-90s. That's what it was called. I forgot the name of it. With the olds. And of course, TNT Final 2 deal. And of this, it's kind of interesting because I think Tara, I think, understands that Kiefer will beat her in the end. And so when Jed is HOH, I think she sees Kiefer going as, you know, like, it's kind of a loss, but it's okay. Like, she'll move on. She'll go back to, you know, Taraing around and just bopping, going playing in the ball pit. She'll be okay. But Tina was more upset about Kiefer potentially going this week, you know. I think she sees Kiefer as a really loyal ally, and I don't think that she quite sees the big picture, which is honestly probably one of the first times that I don't think Tina is as socially aware. Because I do think that Kiefer would have stuck with the boys over Tina, and I just don't think Tina saw that, which is surprising, because usually her social game and her social awareness is so strong. And then we have Beth, which is probably the grossest alliance name I've ever heard. And I hope I never have to say that again. But as we've also seen on the feeds, the moment Brayden leaves the room, Beth says that she wants Brayden out next. So I'm not really sure. And also Beth and Tara also have a really strong relationship, which is not really included on this, but I think that they also potentially would later on make a Final 2 deal. So let's just see how the resumes are going. These are also really basic resumes. I didn't really go too far in depth. But let's see some resonate. Okay, first we have Brayden. So if you're looking at Brayden, some of his mistakes, I would say, in the game, maybe not integrating himself as much in like the big alliances, I didn't say. And also he hasn't won any comps. And like I said before, people in this season really respect people winning comps. And without winning comps, I think it's going to be pretty hard for Brayden to pitch a case. But the thing that's one of some of his moves, I don't know if it's even considered a move, but he's so likable. I think that's what's kind of pulled him through this game is he's so likable. And I think people would think that maybe he's being carried. But I think what you have to understand is if someone's being carried, why are they being carried? Is it because they aren't a threat or is it because you like them? And I think that Brayden's more being carried because he's likable. And also, he was supposed to be the backdoor option this week. And the fact that that was flipped to Kiefer, to me, is very, very impressive. But like I said, he's never won a comp and he's been nominated 3 times, which is quite a lot. Okay, next we're going to go on to Beth. So I think one of her biggest mistakes is a lack of self-awareness and also the view of being kind of drug along by the throuple. And also something I think that's interesting is that I believe it was Beth and Tara were having a conversation just kind of about women in the final 2 and how women sometimes aren't as respected as much as the men for gameplay. And I'm not sure if I don't think that happens as often in Big Brother. You could correct me if I'm wrong. But I think if we've seen in Survivor, that's so true, where there's been so many kick-ass women who probably deserve to win. But the fact is that the jury, for some reason, had more respect for the men's games and lost because of it. It's kind of interesting just to kind of see why that is or how that happens. And I don't know. I think it's just a topic of discussion that just to think about. And she has won 1 comp. And every time I talked about if they won an HOH, I also talked about who went home on their HOH because I think that's important. And on her HOH, Victoria went home. And as we know, the thruple's never been on the block, so she's never been nominated. And I think that Beth's resume... Oh, I skipped the moves. So I think she's been doing a really good job of planting seeds, of taking credit for moves, even if she's not that responsible, which I almost think is the opposite of Tina, where I don't think Tina takes credits for moves, and so the cast doesn't know what's going on. But I think Beth does take credit for her moves. And because of that, I think that there's a chance that when she speaks to the jury, they would believe her that moves were hers. And because of that, I think that she has a potential to win. I do. I think that Beth has a really good potential. I think if it's Beth I think Beth loses to Jed. Beth probably loses to Ty. But if Beth is against Tina, Tara, Brayden, I think she has a shot, especially against Tina and Tara. Against Brayden, I don't know. Brayden's so likable, especially by the current members of the jury. That'll be a hard one. But I think that there's a chance that Beth wins against those 3. And I think that she is potentially in a good spot. I wouldn't really love a Beth win, but it could happen. So Jed's mistake. You could argue that a showmance is a mistake. It put him in a big spot where he just appears to be very connected. Because obviously him and Ty are a duo, and now the fact that he's with Beth, I think being tied to 2 duos makes you a lot more threatening of the trio. The most threatening of the trio. Moves. I was just kind of saying, I guess the current thing he's doing is a move with potentially getting Kiefer out. And it's kind of hard because the thruple's done a lot this game, and I think they've been a part of a lot of decisions. But I'm not really sure who can really take the full credit for them versus just being divided between all of them, which is why I think Kiefer's comment of, I'm going to vote for whoever has the most comp wins might actually hold true, because I think that they're just kind of all seen as the same gameplay wise. And so it's going to be very interesting if there's 2 people in the thruple in the final 2 who really is going to win and who really gets the most respect from the jury. So his comp wins, he's obviously the current HOH. He's won 1 veto, and like the rest of the thruple, he's never been nominated. Okay, Ty. So I think his mistake is I think that he's just seen as playing the same games as the others, except I think he's kind of 3rd on the totem pole and not as respected right now. And I think that's going to be a real problem from him. I think his biggest move, if you can even call this a move, is I think that Ty has so many authentic relationships and he's so likable, kind of like Brayden, where the amount of effort he's put into his social game, I think has really pushed him and propelled him through this game. And there's a lot of hope for me that he has a chance of getting to the end, because as you guys all know, Ty is my winner pick currently. But right now he's got to do something. He's got to win some more comps. He won a veto, But other than that, he's never been nominated. Ty's playing a great game, but when he's being compared to the throuple right now, I'm not sure if he's as respected. That's something that we have to keep, just think about. So next we have Tina. So I think Tina's mistake is, one, she hasn't won any competitions, which obviously that's probably not her fault, but still it makes her look not as respected by the jury. But more than that, Tina's making moves, and Tina is planting a lot of seeds and having a lot of influence in this game. I think that I talk about moves, I think that she was really responsible for Victoria being backdoored when she was. But I think the problem is that the way Tina talks is so like nonchalant, like, oh, are you sure you want to poke Kiefer up? Oh, okay, I get, you know what I mean? Where it's almost like, it's just, I don't think she ever gets credit for her moves because she never appears to be responsible for them, because when the way she talks, it doesn't even seem like she believes she is. And so I really hope if Tina makes the final two, I would be amazed if she could pitch it in the way that I hope she could and could win this game. But right now, it's just going to be really hard for Tina, because even though we as the viewers know that Tina's playing the game, if your castmates don't see it, then you have no chance of winning. And I also wanted to make a comment that I just think Tina is playing an impeccable floater game. The way that she's been aligned with both sides of the house the entire game, and this is the first time she's been nominated, to me is pretty incredible. I think Tina is a great Big Brother player, and if there is an all-star season, I would love to see Tina on it and play again, because I just think that she's so good at the game and so flexible, and I just think it's quite impressive. So the next person we have is Tara. Unlike Ty and Brayden, Tina's mistake is she's just unlikable. Tara, I couldn't even give her any moves, because I was like, what has Tara done besides, like, I don't know. I've said this before, but I really don't like when players aren't self-aware, and Tara is the perfect example of someone who's not very self-aware. I just don't think she's very likable from the cast perspective. I know that there's some Tara stands out there, and I don't think she's really done anything, and so it's really hard for me to imagine that she's being respected by the jury, because Tina at least is pretty likable. Tina had good relationships, and Tara and Tina, just like how the throuples all being put in the same box, I think Tina and Tara are also being put in the same box. So when you get put in the same box, but then you're also kind of unlikable, it's really hard to win. And I think Tara's resume personally is the weakest of the cast right now. I think Tara's going to have the hardest chance of winning. I think Tara falls last. And she did win a veto. She's got to keep winning competitions because, like I said, Big Brother Canada really respects that. But she's not looking very good. And now we have Kiefer. I think Kiefer's big mistakes to the game, I mentioned it, but I just think he was too focused on Ro. He just could not get Ro out of his head. He was so focused on it that he just didn't see the fact that as the people who were against the throuple are going away, who's going to be next on the pecking order? It's going to be Kiefer, and I just don't think he saw that. I don't think he should have broken up the trio with the double. I think that was a big mistake. And more than that, I think he's just too arrogant, because I think the fact that he's been telling everyone that he's the best player and he's most likely to win the game, I think really worked against him. Because why would you because if someone tells you they're going to win the game, eventually you're going to start believing it. And if someone's going to win the game, you don't want them at the end, and you don't even want to give them the chance to get to the end. So when you have the opportunity to strike, you strike. And Jed took that opportunity. And what are some of his moves? And I don't think Kiefer's wrong. I think Kiefer does have the strongest resume. I think he's pretty responsible for this trio being so safe. I think he's almost single-handedly dismantled the oddballs, either by winning the HOHs and taking out oddballs such as Kyle and Ro, who are the two people who are probably fighting for the trio the most, or when people like Victoria were in power. Victoria and Kiefer had such a good relationship that when Victoria was in power, Kiefer was kind of a number, or not Kiefer was kind of a number, but Kiefer was whispering in her little ear and telling her not to put up the boys. And because of that, it kept him safe, which is so wild. And it's so wild that to me that Kiefer has done so much for the throuple. So much for the throuple. And I don't even know if the throuple acknowledges it. They don't, because I think Beth even made a comment. She was kind of like, Kiefer thinks that he did all of this, like, and saved us, but really we saved him. What? Beth, how has the throuple saved Kiefer at all? How? When it was LaToya versus Kiefer, all the Kiefer votes were you guys. If anything, you guys are the reason why he almost went home. Like, that is, like, so delusional to me to think that. But, oh well, you just gotta move on. But yeah, Kiefer has done that. He's also won a lot of comps. He's won 2 HOHs in a veto. And like I said, he took out Kyle and Rowe, which, if you're looking at a resume, I'm not sure if Kyle and Rowe are the scariest of people to take out. But he's been nominated 3 times, which I believe is the most of anyone left. There might have been, I think that he's been nominated the most of anyone left. But yeah, because I think Tara was twice, Tina's won, the thruple 0. But like I said, Kiefer was playing a great game. And the problem is he let everyone know it. There's so many seasons of Big Brother where there's someone running the house. Like, let's go to like BB20, like Tyler, okay? Tyler was making all these moves. But the problem is, well, for the house, was that none of them realized it. And I guess he did lose the game, so maybe what a little better people did know what things he was doing. But Kiefer lets people know. Kiefer's telling everyone he's the strongest member of the house. And because of that, Kiefer's probably going home. Oh, hot update. Apparently, the throuple is playing with the idea to keep Kiefer, which is just so idiotic to me. Like I said, why? Okay, Kiefer is someone who wasn't going to go after the throuple. He wanted the throuple at the end with him. Kiefer is a strong competitor. Do you think that Kiefer, who was openly stated, I was an idiot, basically, for not putting the throuple up during the double. Do you think Kiefer is going to be on your side after this? No! Once you put Kiefer up, you cannot save him. You have to send him out the door. Like, the fact that the throuple is even considering saving Kiefer, I don't know who gets credit for that. I haven't been watching the feeds right now because I've been on this. So, is it Ty? Because I think the only person that might be able to benefit from Kiefer's state at this point is Ty, because I don't think Jed does, and Beth doesn't. So why would they consider keeping Kiefer? That's so wild to me. Wow. If Kiefer does stay, though, so Tara would go. Yeah. That's wild to me. I do think it would have been better for Ty's game, at least, if Tara goes over Kiefer. But for Jed and Beth, I just don't think it is good. So that is wild to me. But that's all I got for the resumes right now. And so now I wanted to do a BB tier list, which this is basically a tier list for winner potential in my eyes, for like who has the best chance of winning. I'm not doing it based off who I think is the best game player, because that's different. This is going to be who I think is most likely to win. And as we've seen in interviews right now, Victoria and Ro both, they both said Kiefer had the best chance of winning. But if Kiefer goes this week, I don't think I could put him as number 1. I think right now, Jed has the best chance of winning the game. I think that Jed has connections where there's a chance he can make it to the end. I think that Jed has won competitions, which, like I said, people in Big Brother Canada really respect. I think Jed right now has the best chance of winning the game. And after Jed, I think we have to give it to the throuple. I think Beth has the potential to have a better chance of winning than Ty, but I think it's very close. I think if Ty doesn't win another competition, then I think that Beth wins. I think that Beth beats Ty, which is really wild to me. Oh, yeah. Didn't she said it like during the competition too, right? Yelling at the other house guests. Yeah, that's funny. I love Tara. Tara is a hoot to me. She could be a little annoying, but Tara is a hoot, and I am happy Tara is on the season. Okay, who's next? Let's go. I think then Brayden has the next best chance of winning. I think he has a great social game. I think he needs to win some competitions to have a little more respect from the jury. But I think Brayden has a great chance of winning. After that, I'm going to go Tina. if I was on the jury, I would love for Tina to win. But like I said, as we've seen in interviews, no one sees Tina's game. And if Tina doesn't tell people her game, then how are they going to vote for her? And so right now, I just think Tina with no competitions, no one sees what she's doing in the game. And unless she gives a bomb final two speech, I just don't think Tina can do it. And I don't really have faith in Tina. Okay, who do we have next? Okay, between Kiefer. Now that's interesting. See, Kiefer's such a, I'm going to put Kiefer at C tier behind Tina. Because if Kiefer can somehow convince the throuple to not send him out the door, then Kiefer goes up to, I would say, A tier. Because I think that people would still be after him. But still, Kiefer's great at competitions. There's a very good chance that Kiefer can win out with other people's help. But I'll keep him at C tier below Tina. And then we got Tara. I'm going to put Tara in D tier. Because I just don't see any scenario where Tara wins. I think Tara can be against any person. I think she loses. Even against Tina. You could say that Tina, maybe Tara's done more than Tina. Maybe Tara's won some competitions in the eyes of the cast. But I still think Tina wins it. She's so likable. She had so many connections on both sides that Tara didn't have. Tara doesn't have the Sunsetters. Tara didn't really have the oddballs. So I think Tina was more set up, at least with her social connections, than Tara was. And that's why I think that, I think that currently this is the order of winners. I do. Beth, to me, is the most surprising one. I almost want to put Brayden higher, but if Brayden doesn't win competitions, I think it would be really hard for him to even make it. But yeah, wow. The fact that I put Beth as the second most likely to win, you can disagree with me, but that's just wild. Well, that is all I have today. It's a little short, but that's okay. Well, I hope you guys have a lovely week, and I just want to go watch the feast now and see what's going on with that Kiefer scenario. Like, is Kiefer gonna somehow save himself? We'll see, I guess. My social media is below Sarah Yellow 6, and Silent Podcast has a bunch of content throughout the week. I know we're going to be covering some Disney original channel movies. Is that what they're called? What do they call it? Mokes? They have a word. I forget. I think there's still some. We have Total Drama Island podcast. I think maybe tonight. We have Anime Club. A lot of good content out there. And yeah. Oh, I got it. Disney Channel original movie. Thank you. I knew I was doing it wrong, Geneva. Thank you so much. Where would I be without you? Well, I hope that people watch Disney Channel original movies. My personal favorite is Eddie's $1 Million Cook-Off. I think it is properly rated by everyone as the best Disney Channel original movie, right? Hopefully. Well, like I said, have a great week, everyone, and I will see you on Friday.